And now I am joined on the We Are West Ham podcast by Jeremiah, a Brighton fan, ahead of Sunday's game at London Stadium at 2 p.m. against our bogey team in the Premier League. It seems to be still can't beat Brighton in the Premier League. Thought we might have had it in the bag on the last day of last season, but despite going 1-0 up, but yeah, it all went downhill from there. We missed out on sixth place as a result. Not really a surprise, but I really thought we'd have it in the bag. But Jeremiah, thanks for joining us, mate.
No, I was happy to be here.
Good stuff. So let's talk about Brighton, particularly last season. It was your highest ever finish in the Premier League, 9th. Record points total in 51, I believe. Graham Potter doing an absolutely fantastic job at the Amex.
Yeah.
But this summer, you've lost two massive players in Cucurella and Basuma.
Yeah, I mean, with Basuma, I think he is a great player, obviously, and Spurs have got a good player. I think, what was it, 30 million up front, which is probably the right value for him, which is quite good as well, considering his last year of his contract, and we would have lost him for free next summer. But I don't think he was that integral to how we play. His passing was never sort of all that. What he was good at was progressing the ball, tackling, and running. But we've sort of replaced that, I think, with McAllister, Caicedo, who are more progress the ball through passing. So I think that suits Potter a bit more in how we'd like to play. And we were linked to Grilic, I think, which is a deal that nearly got over the line from Hoffenheim. But he apparently there was attitude problems that Brighton were worried about, so that didn't happen. But I don't think Brighton are that desperate to replace him in midfield. And as well with Cucurella, he's sort of £63 million, I think, including allowance was the final fee for him. I think we're confirmed that we might be bringing Villarreal left back. I can't remember how you pronounce his name. Estupian, I think it is, from Ecuador to join with Caicedo, both from Ecuador. And I think that'd be fine. Like, left wing back is not a difficult role to fill in Potter's system. Trossard was playing there. The new signing Mitoma got sort of 15 minutes at the end of the Newcastle game and looked really good. So I don't actually think those two signings are as big a loss. I mean, we've done all right in the first two games.
You certainly made big profit on both of them as well.
Yes,
so can't be sniffed at. Definitely can't be sniffed at. With all that in mind, though, what's the expectation amongst Brighton fans? Obviously, record season of the top flight last year. Made a lot of money on two departures, linked with some good players to come in and replace them, and a decent start, unbeaten in the opening two games, including a win at Old Trafford on the opening weekend. Does that change expectations? And what were the expectations going into this season?
I think expectations were sort of 10th to 7th optimistic, but Brighton fans, if you've asked most of them before the beginning of the season, anything above 14th would be fine. I think we just need to secure that upper echelons of mid-table in the Premier League, keep getting all that TV revenue money each summer, and just keep building for the future. I think there's some optimism that maybe we could push and be one of those outside dark horses for the 7th spot, maybe 6th with the way United are going at the moment. But anything above 14. I was listening to a podcast on the drive home, one of the Man United Athletic games. It's quite satisfying.
Yeah. I mean, that game on the opening weekend, I thought, cool, that is a massive result for Brighton. And now it turns out that maybe it was just a good result.
A bit.
Yeah, it's just kind of, maybe it was an okay result against United.
I'm hoping that it's better because the optimism of the first game and the sort of at home, the first day of the season, the sort of positivity around Ten Hag, and then we just came on and popped the ball and ruined them for Brentford.
Yeah. No, it couldn't happen to a nicer football club as well, given the dominance they've had in years. So I'm glad Brighton managed to do that. In terms of, we spoke about Cucurella and Basuma. Is there a worry that every summer you're going into a new season with the risk of losing your best players? I know you said that losing those two players isn't really going to hurt you as much as maybe it's perceived from the outside. But obviously, lost Ben White last summer, lost Dan Burn in January, a lot of people may have looked at that and gone, God, that's going to rock the boat a little bit at Brighton. But it hasn't really hurt you. But the longer that goes on, there is the potential there to kind of, backfire a little bit. I don't know how Brighton fans feel.
Because it's what happened with Southampton. It's like they did for so long. They got every recruitment option spot on. And then there was a season or two, I think it was after they sacked, was it Claude Puel they sacked? And then they got some Spanish bloke afterwards. And then the recruitment started getting a bit off. And then you see what happens. And now they were kind of in a similar Brighton position where they were in and around that top half, or at least we were last season. And then the recruitment started going wrong, and they just slid, and now they're a relegation fodder team, which is what we've been for the last few years as well, despite last season's finish. So that is a worry, but I think more it's about Potter. I think he's the key to it. It's about and the structure that we have in place with our director of football, our chief executive, and our recruitment team, and it's just all that structure and the current manager that we have and the recruitment team does keep it all together, so we can absorb these losses. And the way Potter plays, he does so much rotation week to week. He rarely plays the same starting 11 every week. So it's kind of like a pound shop City in that way, where he'll drop 3 players even if they perform quite well, and then bring in 3 new players and do a completely different formation system. So I think Potter is the big one. I think we can pretty much absorb a lot of the losses now. Trust our recruitment to pick up the slack, and also we've got quite a few. We've been doing sort of buying these teenagers, sending them out on loan for season, 2 season, and we've got a couple of them back this summer who might be looking. That's what happened with Caicedo. We bought him last January for sort of 4.5 million. Went out on loan in Belgium, has come back and has looked really good. And there's a couple more out there that have gone online. But yeah, Potter, I think, is the big one. If we lose him, then that's going to be the sort of hardest to deal with compared to any of the players that we've got.
That was my next question: is that is there the worry? I mean, there must be the worry that he was already linked with the Tottenham job, I believe, before Conte went there. He's going to be linked. The more impressive he is at Brighton, there's going to be more and more links away to some of the so-called bigger clubs in the Premier League. And I think he's even been spoken about for the England job, which I don't think he'd be suited for. But
I don't get the England links at all. I think the England job is something that managers go to if they're kind of at the end of their careers, or if they can't quite get steady footing in their club careers. I don't think a manager on the up would want to take an international job. It sort of knocks them out after competition for 4 to 8 years, and then things change in football. They might be less suited to come into a job. And as well, Gareth Southgate, as well as he's done, if he were to leave the England job after the World Cup, how many Premier League teams would be sort of offering him a job? I think it's not great to step out of an international role expecting to get a good. He would have to go to another smaller club like Brighton, rebuild his reputation in the club game before he could then be considered, unless he wins the World Cup and the Euros or something. But
which is unlikely.
I would think.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a case of what can Brighton do to keep him away from prying eyes, because there will be clubs, particularly I can't imagine United might be sniffing around, in particular if Ten Hag doesn't last before Christmas.
I think United might be wishful thinking from their point of view. I think Potter works so well in Brighton because we have, again, this structure. It used to be Dan Ashworth, and then David Weir as sort of in-house promotion succeeded him. He's got the recruitment team that we've had for a while. Like a lot of these players like McAllister, Basuma, Ben White came from our academy there. They preceded both Dan Ashworth and Potter because our owner is lights on there. Our owner is very very competent at running a football club. But in terms of convincing him to stay, probably have to get Europa in the next 2 years. Otherwise, he'll maybe when Conte's project implodes, he might fancy that.
Yeah, which is inevitable, isn't it, at some point with Conte? But I mean, for me, looking at it, it looks like another top 10 finish, and perhaps even an attempt at finishing in the Europa places or European places is almost, it feels like the next step for Brighton.
Yeah, I think this season is probably the season we need to do that. But the thing I'm worried about is that we're still, I think, a couple of signings short from January. I think we've got a great starting 11, but we've had a great starting 11 for the last few years. What really kills us is the signings, is the injuries, and lack of signings to cover. So Adam Webster's a big one. Each time he goes out, he's so good at passing and progressing the ball. He sort of takes it, runs up the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
All the opposition defence and midfield all out of position, and then he plays a great pass, and we're on the attack. He's so key for us, but he's so injury prone. We kind of maybe have supplemented that with Colwell on loan from Chelsea, but I don't know how good he is. He was good in the Championship, and Ben was good in the Championship. Did the job. We would have to see. I think midfield as well. We do need cover. We've got good starting midfield three, but Lallana is not reliable to play full season. And Wepu, I see signing for Salzburg's looked good when he's been on, but again, injury prone for most of the season. Last season, we have never really got to see him up and swinging. So I worry that we haven't got enough cover in midfield. And also, we've just sold Mope, or it's not official yet, to Nottingham Forest for around 15 million. So Danny Welbeck, again, another one who's quite injury prone. We don't have a player like him who can replace him. We've got the German Undav, who's coming from USG, player of the season in Belgium, sort of 30 plus goals and assists last season, but again, untested, and he's not really one of those signings who can run in behind onto long balls like what was so effective against Manchester United. He'll drop deep and play the ball in and sort of create as well as score. So we don't have that athletic sort of pace that Welbeck offers.
Well, glad Mope's going. Just one less player to score against us. Although if he's going, Forest are buying everyone at the moment, and it's unsettling me a little bit.
They bought about 3 strikers, haven't they? So Dennis, Mope, that bloke from Union Berlin who used to be at Liverpool.
Scored against us at the weekend. Luckiest goal in the world.
I saw that, just bounced off his leg.
Come off his knee. Yeah. Very lucky goal. Let's look ahead to this weekend then, Jeremiah. As I said right at the beginning, it baffles me. It baffles every West Ham fan that we still, and this is no disrespect to Brighton, obviously, but it just feels.
I think it is. Yeah.
It just feels like Brighton have become this bogey team of ours that we just can't shake that monkey off our back. And it's before the win on the final game of the season, it was 6 draws in a row. Now Brighton are draw specialists in the Premier League. I was doing some research on this. 192 games played since your promotion in 2017. 66 draws, it's 34%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider you've only had 49 wins at 25%, that is a lot of draws. So 6 draws in a row against us probably isn't that much of a surprise, but we still haven't managed to beat you. You average 2 goals a game in the Premier League against us. How are you feeling about this Sunday? Do you think that run's going to continue against us?
I'm particularly nervous because it's one of those ones, when you look at the history and you look at how the teams are at the moment, obviously West Ham losing the first 2 on the bounce, Brighton beating United, and then really controlling the whole game against Newcastle, had all of the opportunities, should have put a couple away. They had a couple of goal line clearances from defenders, Nick Pope, a couple of whirly saves. It seems like Brighton are on the ascendancy, they'll be well up for it, and they should get a 2-3-0 win with the way we're playing and the way West Ham are playing. But it's football. I could very, very easily see it flip the other way, and just upset the run and the obvious choice for the result. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not feeling too confident, particularly after what I've seen after the first 2 games. I think it all depends on whether we have any defenders left. We've sold a few. The rest are injured. Poor old Ben Johnson's been playing centre back alongside Zuma, but luckily there's not going to be Mope to cause them any problems. Hopefully, which does give me a little bit of hope, actually.
I don't know. Keep your eye on Mitoma. He's one of our signings we bought last summer from a Japanese side for 2.5 million. Averages a goal involvement a game in Japan, then came over to Union Saint-Gilloise, I think it's pronounced. It's Tony Bloom's sort of second club the owns as well as Brighton. Went on loan there, had some injury problems, but still numbered a sort of goal and assist per game. And he came on last 15 minutes against Newcastle, and he looks like a proper player. Sort of a beautiful touch, like very slender and small, but seems to be able to have an unnatural amount of strength for that sort of physique.
Great. That's not what I wanted to hear. But yeah. So aside from him, who should we be looking at in the Brighton team in terms of who should we be fearing? Who should David Moyes be going, right? We need to stop him.
So yeah, miss him as the one, I think, because he'll take people by surprise. He's only had 50 minutes in the Premier League, but teams won't have a plan to deal with him. Yeah, he's got explosive pace and a great touch, so he could be a surprise. In terms of ones to watch, Pascal Gross, maybe. He's been quite hot in the last few games from last season, and then again in the first few games from this season. Same with Solly March. They've both sort of really picked up some form and up their games. But with Brighton, it's such a difficult question because we don't really have that many players who are outstanding attacking wise.
More of a squad, more of a unit.
Yeah, so we push our attacks through just strength in midfield, and we overpower teams in the middle of the park with a high press and good midfield, and then possible forwards. And it's about whoever happens to be in an opportune space, and then shoot. And most of the time we miss because it's Brighton.
That's why you draw so much.
Seagulls, yeah.
So, but from a West Ham point of view, is there anyone that you're particularly worried about? I know many would initially say Jared Bowen, but he's had a really poor first 2 games of the season. And which players are you looking at going, he could really hurt our weaknesses? And what are your weaknesses as well?
I've always been terrified of Ben Rama every time I watch West Ham. He was a player that I watched because I keep an eye on Brentford. I live just around the corner now. From their stadium, so I watched them a bit in the Championship because they're a really, really fun team to watch. And he always caught my eye. And again, when he went to West Ham and playing in the Prem, he's had some real moments. So he's one of those players that I think could just pull something out of the bag, score a worldie from outside the box, and suddenly the whole mood of the game shifts and can empower the West Ham team, and they keep just piling people forward. And then the obvious one, Declan Rice. If it'll be won and lost, I know it's stereotypical saying, but it'll be won or lost in the midfield. It's about Caicedo v Rice, I think, tomorrow. Whoever wins that battle.
Yeah, 100%. I think, Rice has had by his own standards, a pretty quiet and poor first 2 games. I think it's difficult to use the City game at the beginning of the season as to gauge anything because it's Man City and they're going to win the league again. But against Forest, I know he missed the penalty. Don't know why he did take the penalty in the first place, but just wasn't his normal world-class self that we've kind of become so used to. And similar to Bowen as well. But Ben Rama was the best player on the pitch against Nottingham Forest. He seems like he's started this season with a little bit of form, a little bit positive confidence is the word. So yeah, hopefully he can build on that. But Jeremiah, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask you for that score prediction for Sunday, 2 p.m. at London Stadium.
I'm going to say 2-2.
That's my favourite prediction. I always go for Desmond.
Yeah, 2-2. I think both teams will score, and I think it'll be tight. I can't see a sort of thumping win either way. Well, but I'm often wrong.
Yeah, to be fair, I do hope you're wrong because another draw against Brighton, I'm too sure they'll be able to take that, to be fair. But in the interest of staying positive, and I'm going at the weekend. I don't know, are you going? Are you going to be there?
No, I'm not. I've got a season ticket for the home stadium, but I usually have work on weekends and work so much in the week, do other things every week, other weekend.
Fair. So it'd be my first Premier League game of the season. I was meant to go to the City, but I couldn't get to that one. So in the interest of staying positive and seeing us win, I'm going to go 2-1. The monkey will finally be off our backs. We'll finally end that drought against Brighton. But it will be very, very tight. I think it's going to be a really rubbish game of football. Like, I don't think it's going to be one that we'll remember either way.
I could see that scrappy goal bouncing off someone's back to roll in at the 90th minute. Yeah, hopefully it goes our way though. Hopefully. Well, Jeremiah, as I said, been a pleasure having you on this week, and hopefully we get to speak to you a little bit later in the season